I know my nephew's up there walking that green pasture with God, and God's telling him, you're one awesome man, and you lived your life right.
Salute!
I'm just very honored today to sing my last song for my nephew, Shannon. I loved him with all my heart, knowing him since he was a young boy. He always called me Uncle Gino. Made me feel good. Give me bear hugs. That's what I'm gonna miss. Gonna miss his beautiful smile. I know he loved working as a firefighter. A lot of prayers for all of you that are here today. I appreciate you guys doing this for my nephew today, Shannon.
Well, good afternoon and welcome. My name is Rod Bonaker. I'm a recent retiree from the Forest Service, 40-some years mostly on the Deschutes National Forest, and so you are all, many of you are all friendly and familiar faces, and we're going to get through this together, so bear with us. To know Shannon was to respect him and his skills on the fire ground, and especially his skills with people, where he used a combination of that massive body and imposing leadership and a great and all-embracing humor. Funniest guy around. Ultimately, we honor Shannon best by carrying those skills and lessons forward to teach and to pass on to those that follow us. His legacy lives on, and these fine young men, his sons, and the many young students of fire that Shannon took on to raise during his long career. In that way, in our weird and unique fire culture way, we get to celebrate and demonstrate our love for Shannon forever.
Shannon was one of those few people on the Deschutes National Forest that worked at all of our duty stations. He was a hot shot here at the Redmond Air Center. He was the fire management officer at Crescent, and he was a fire fuels guy at Ben Fort Rock and Sisters during his time here. He touched us all during his career. So keeping in mind that this is a celebration and hopefully there's a lot of good humor here this afternoon, I would just want to finish with a short story that hopefully will bring a smile to some of your face, and certainly for the folks who have worked at the Crescent Ranger District, I think they'll understand it maybe even a little better. As the fire management officer at Crescent, Shannon inherited a pink couch in his office, which he never removed during his tenure at the old office. Whenever I came down to Crescent, he always welcomed me to sit down in his office and chat. And that's just who Shannon was. And of course, he offered me to sit on that pink couch. He was concerned about me being comfortable every time he did that. And he usually said, well, we can sit somewhere else, you know, if you would like to sit and talk. We could go over to Jeff Bishop's office or Ranger Juke's office. And I'd always say, no, the pink couch, it's okay here in your office. And Shannon would always say, yeah, I'd pick the pink couch also. So to you, Shannon, thank you for all your years of service. We will all miss you, and I will never forget how you made us all feel.
Thank you, John. Next up, Shannon's life story, at least from the fire career side of things. From John Holcomb, former superintendent at the Redmond Hotshots.
As you can see, I did the hotshot and stuff for too long. Yeah, I called this Shannon's journey, and like John, the first part I think is going to be hard to get through. I don't know a lot the first few words, but although our hearts are aching, we're here today to gather. We lift up our Shannon. He touches all profoundly. As I think about my Shannon, I realize that we all shared the same experience with the big guy. He made us smile, made us happy, he made our day better. The man was powerful. Look around the room. He pulled us together today because, once again, he will make us smile, make us happy, make our day better. The man is powerful, not just was powerful. His legacy teaches us to connect with people, to be kind, to be authentic, and to have each other's back. As I began to review, to share Shannon's story, I was reminded of Herodotus, the 5th century historian who is considered the father of history. And that was conferred by Cicero back in, like I said, 5th century BC. I think DJ asked me to come here and do his history because he thought I knew Herodotus. He was the first to treat historical subject as a method of investigation by collecting materials systematically and critically, and then arranging them into a history of what happened, what the events were. I'm here today to share that with you about Shannon's life. I've always had a passion for history. Some of the people that were in this room their eyes are going to roll back when I say that, because every year I tested them on days in history and what was important about the significance of a particular day along the way. And they laughed at me, they put up with it, but anyway, they always tried to play the game with me along the way. I first met Shannon in '97 when he spent the summer with the Redmond Hotshots. As I said, each year on a significant date, June 6th, for instance, I would ask, what's the significance of this day? They usually got that one because on the morning news that day, they would have seen something about, it was D-Day and the Allied forces stormed Normandy beaches, Utah, Omaha, and others with the Allied forces to retake Europe. So they knew that one. But then I'd ask them, what about on August 14th, it'd be dirty August, we'd be on a fire somewhere. And I go, what's the significance of this day? And they'd look at me, Shannon and Deb and whoever else was ever on the crew through the years I was here, which was about 10 years, 2 separate times, as a superintendent once and as a foreman the other time. They would look at me and that dumb son of a gun, here he goes again. And then I'd start, tossing out a few clues, they usually wouldn't get it. And then I'd finally have to tell them, well, in August 14th, 1914, World War I began. So they'd put up with it. I'd do it through the summer whenever we had a significant day. And they endured. They endured my wanting to be a professor at some point in time in my life. But anyway, they put up with it. To begin Shannon's narrative, he was born June 30th, 1968 in Browning, Montana. Grew up in Tacoma, Washington, as a proud member of the Upper Skagit Indian tribe. And there alone, 1968 is a significant year in the history of mankind, really, but especially of the 20th century. One of the most tumultuous years of all time was 1968. There's a book written about that topic alone, 1968. If you're interested, it's a great book. The whole world was in turmoil. There was the two major killings in the United States, Robert Kennedy and Martin Luther King Jr., riots in the streets, the famous Democratic Convention. We're going through that these weeks right now in Chicago. And then the same thing going on in Paris, Mexico, Prague, Czechoslovakia, all over the world. It was going on anyway. 1968, interesting that he would have been born in that year. He graduated from Lincoln High School in 1986. He attended Bates Vocational Technical Institute in Tacoma, Washington, completing a structural firefighting program in 1987. And then there's the love story. At some point in time, Shannon and Jackie met. They were married. They had 2 amazing sons, Hayden, Levi. And I'll bet if I were to ask Shannon during the course of that summer some significant date that might have been a birthday or an anniversary, he would have remembered that. I'm sure he would have remembered that. He is survived by his beautiful wife, Jackie. They were together for 22 years. His boys, Hayden and Levi, who filled his heart with love and beyond measure. His mother, Shirley Lammy LaPointe of Tacoma. his stepfather, Dennis LaPointe of Tacoma, and his stepmother, Vera Grande of Phoenix. He is preceded in death by his father, Floyd Grande. Shannon is also survived by his sisters, Sandra Nosh, nicknamed EJ, Jamie LaPointe, nicknamed Joe, Desiree LaPointe, all of Tacoma. Also a sister, Crystal Grande of Chandler, Arizona, and his brother, Dennis Jr. of Tacoma. Shannon's family includes many aunts and uncles, nieces and nephews and cousins, as you can see here. And there was still plenty of room in his big heart for countless friends. As we look out at this crowd, you can see that here. Shannon was an avid sports fan who enjoyed golfing, playing horseshoes, basketball, watching boxing, and even a little trap shooting. He especially loved rooting for the Seahawks, the Mariners, the Trailblazers, and of course his University of Washington Huskies. There was not a sport that he didn't like to watch or be a part of. Today we honor Shannon's 26 years of service and dedication to the wildland fire business. In 1988 through 91, he was an engine crew member on the White River Ranger District, Mount Baker Snoqualmie National Forest in Enumclaw, Washington. And I was able to talk to his AFMO at the funeral service this week, and he told me that his first assignment was to Yellowstone. Imagine that as the start of career. So that's pretty cool. He might have been on some small fires at home, but his first big fire assignment was at Yellowstone. From 91 to 92, he was promoted to engine crew foreman at the same location. From 92 to 95, he shifted gears a little bit and he worked as a trail crew foreman on the White River District, where he began to supervise extensive projects in remote areas, supervise volunteer work parties, backcountry horse groups, and constructing various trail maintenance and recreation facilities. From 95 to 2001, he was a fire crew supervisor on the White River Ranger District, responsible for hiring, training, and leading fire suppression efforts. In the summer of 1997, Shannon took a training detail to the Redmond H Hotshot Crew, where I first met him, and the same with DJ. And I remember, we always made calls before the crew. We selected the crew usually in in February or March, and we usually started making calls and checking in every week. Well, what are you doing for PT? What are are you staying with the program? What are you doing? Well, Shannon, well, I'm playing basketball and I'm swimming. And I remember DJ and I had desks across from each other. We could look at each other. The other one would be raising their eyebrow like, oh boy, here we go again. Well, it turns out we get this great big Clydesdale horse who can work in 24 hours a day, and it's no big deal. He doesn't run very fast, but boy, he can just keep at it all the time. So it was just a pleasure to have him on the crew. You've heard the words already, the upbeat, positive way that Shannon was. Well, that's where he was as a Redmond Hotshot. Unfortunately, that year was not a very busy year, and those of you who are in the business, I think it rained all summer pretty much. I think we had 27 days of the possible 120 days that we were on fire assignment. And I remember that I used a quote from a movie, The Shawshank Redemption, all summer long, keep hope alive, because we didn't really have much of anything else. That's all we had was hope. So 1997 with the Redmond Hotshot Crew. In 2001, he shifted gears and came over here to the Deschutes National Forest as a full-time squad leader with the Redmond Hotshot Crew. He was promoted for 2 seasons, the assistant superintendent of the crew. Shannon was responsible to help the crew detailers to the crew help implement quality training experience, in interviewing, mentoring, leadership, and supervision of the crew. And I'm sure he did that in the best fashion possible. I know how much fun I had with DJ working here and Deb when I was a soup. I can only imagine how much fun it was for DJ, Shannon, and Deb during those years. I laugh to myself thinking about how much fun that would have been. They could probably tell you some good stories. I'm sure they can. 2004 to 2008, he was a fuels technician for the Cascade Division of the Central Oregon Fire Management Services, COFMAS, on the Deschutes National Forest. His hard work contributed to the area's hazardous fuels program, including work with the Department of Corrections in both the prescribed fire and mechanical treatments. Shannon continued to be heavily involved in course instruction and promoting his dedication to fireline and workplace safety. In 2008, he was promoted, and through 2010, he was promoted to the Assistant Fire Management Officer for fuels for the Newberry Division of COFMAS. During this time, most of Shannon's work was in the highly complex and politically challenging field of wildland-urban interface surrounding the Bend area. So a lot of complex work that he was involved with. And then finally, from 2010 to 2016, he was the Fire Management Officer for the Crescent Division, COFMAS, in Crescent, Oregon. Most recently served as the FMO there at Crescent, in charge of the entire program, including the fire, fuels, prevention, and detection. This area includes responsibility for cooperation with the Oregon Department of Forestry, Walker Range Forest Patrol Association, the BLM, and numerous federal partners in the west, south, and east of his division. They run into a lot of other forests down there, so it becomes a complex situation in and of itself with that alone. Shannon achieved incident command qualifications as a Type 3 incident commander, Type 2 operations branch, section chief, excuse me, operations branch director, a Type 1 burn boss, a Type 2 safety officer. And for those of you who are not in this business, these are really complex positions that require tactical savvy, strong leadership skills, mounds of patience, and an ability to adapt at a moment's notice. This alone says a whole bunch about who Shannon Evans was. He also enjoyed being assigned as an interagency resource representative for Northwest fire crews who were sent out of the region to fight fires in New Mexico, Alaska, Utah, and California. He was a member of the COFMAS Type 3 Incident Management Team and the Central Oregon Type 2 Incident Management Team. In recent years, Shannon served as the Type 3 Incident Commander on the Shadow Lake, Pole Creek, and Stagecoach fires. He also worked as the Type 2 Operations Section Chief on the Shadow Lake, the Whiskey Complex, the 790 fire in Crater Lake National Park, and the Carpenter Road fire in 2015. He received numerous awards and recognition throughout his fire career. His career path demonstrates the reach of his leadership, roles and responsibilities in every position we mentioned. He had someone's back, encouraged someone to be strong, taught someone to be better, kept someone safe, and every day he made us smile, he made us happy, he made our day better. This man was powerful. We firefighters are big storytellers. We love it, and we'll continue to tell those stories, and we'll continue to tell Shannon's stories. I hope to hear a few today along the way. An important value of storytelling in our culture is sharing or passing down our knowledge and learning. We formalize this in studies we call lessons learned. When I think beyond the tactical part about some of the lessons learned with Shannon, his legacy teaches us to connect with people, to be kind, to be authentic, to have each other's back, to be better firefighters, to be better leaders. It's important for us to acknowledge that the wildland fire community draws strength from families at home. A sincere thank you to the family for sharing him with us. Thank you very much. Your support made all the difference. Shannon loved spending time with his family and friends. We'll always remember his humor, his bear hugs, his boisterous laugh, his compassion, his calming presence, and a warm, comforting smile. The man was powerful. And I have one more date to share with you. Every year on July 14th, I would ask the crew, what's the significance of today? And if you don't know, I'm sure everybody on this crew's heard me say this, July 14th we're on a fire somewhere, well, it's Bastille Day. Well, it is Bastille Day, but more importantly, it's the day that we lost our friend, Shannon Evans. Thank you.
So at this point, Hayden and Levi Evans would like to come up and talk to us about their dad for a bit.
I read this at my Dad's service the other day, so if you heard it already, I'm sorry. I'll say it again. Well, I'm so glad to be surrounded by so many people that knew my dad. I'm glad you guys all got here safe. My dad was really great. If you could take every positive adjective there is in the dictionary, that'd be my dad. He was always laid back. He was strict with me sometimes. I remember he always got on me to clean my room, and one time he was like, "All right, Hayden, we're gonna clean your closet because my closet is a mess." And he walks in my room and opens the door to my closet and takes a look around and shuts it and walks out. He's like, "No, we're not doing this." He's like, "We'll have your mom do it." He always liked to joke around. I'm going to miss talking to my dad. I used to talk to him just about anything that was on my mind. I'd always ask him for advice. I like movies, and whenever I find a new movie or something, I look up all the trivia that goes with that movie and just all these little things that go with it, and I'd share with my dad, like, "Hey Dad, you know, this movie was shot this place," or whatever, and he'd be like, "Oh yeah, it's cool," and he'd kind of just blow it off, and I could tell he wasn't really into it that much, but he still listened to me. And I'd always, last year, I didn't work all winter, and I was at home by myself all day till when my dad would used to be the first one to come home. Right when he'd come home, I'd just start talking to him and just unload with everything that I learned or saw that day, and he'd be like, "Oh yeah, cool." And then my parents, and then one time we were talking and stuff, and because I talk a lot, and we were talking, and my dad's all like, he was like, "Yeah man, Hayden's sitting at home all day waiting for somebody to come home to talk to him." Yeah. He was real level-headed. He always kept the house calm when it got too rowdy. When me and my brother would fight all the time, he'd always make sure I apologized, or he'd apologize to me, and he'd get real angry sometimes. He'd get real frustrated and bite his tongue and just like just shake, and me and Levi would be like, "Oh geez, okay, he's biting the tongue, we better stop." I'd always come to him with my ideas or plans that I had, and I'd always choose the longest route possible or the longest way possible, and I'd run it by him, and then he'd be like, "Okay, so why don't you do it this way?" And it'd always end up being shorter or more simple than what I picked. And I'm gonna miss him being obnoxious sometimes. He'd just randomly do weird things, like we were watching some documentary, some song called Two-Headed Dog. I can't remember who sang it, but he slammed his hand on the couch like real hard, and he just, "Two-headed dog!" like super loud. And that was kind of an inside joke. So then when my mom would start getting annoyed, we'd just slam the couch and yell that, and she'd go, "Quit it, quit it." I'm gonna miss him singing the words to songs wrong on purpose, because that always bothered me. Or him just singing as loud as he could in the car. And he's not very good at singing, and a lot of his family members are good at singing and stuff, but he can't really sing very well. I'm gonna miss his pancakes that he'd fix every morning. His hot wings on game day. He'd always ask me like, "Oh, how do these taste?" "Oh, they're pretty good." I'm gonna miss all of his hood rat stories from growing up in Tacoma when he was a kid. Like when him and his buddies would throw old apples at the city buses and stuff. And he was telling me one time that they threw one of his buddies threw an apple and it hit a dude on a motorcycle. And he chased him around like the back alleys and stuff. I think he told me that one of the buses went off their route and chased him around. Yeah, he has this big scar on his thigh from stitches, and when I was younger, me and Levi would be like, well, how'd you get that scar? How'd you get that scar? And he'd be like, oh, it was a shark bit me. Like, no way. Yeah, but it turns out that it was actually, he was getting chased by a dog or something, and tripped on a metal sprinkler and cut his leg open. Him driving down Fairbanks Hill, and that's like one of the steepest hills in Tacoma, and for some reason the brakes didn't work on his bike, and he was going down this hill, and his brakes didn't work, so he crashed into some dude's lawn and broke his shoulder, or broke his collarbone and stuff. And my earliest memory that I have of my dad is when I was still crawling as a baby. I remember him coming home one day, and I just remember crawling to his feet and him picking me up. And that's when my parents still lived in Washington. My dad's taught me a lot of things I'm going to take with me as I grow older. I know he'll always be there for me if I need anything. Our lives will carry on without my dad, but he'll always be there in spirit. He'll always be there for any occasion, birthdays, holidays, anything. I'm sure he'll be all with you guys too. I know he's feeling a lot better now than he was. I'm sure he's running up there with his grandpa, grandma, and his dad, probably chilling out with Bon Scott or something, or just getting a few pointers from Muhammad Ali. Or maybe he's filling out paperwork or doing some kind of like office job or something to like, or doing paperwork to get his guardian angel's permit or something. I'm going to miss my dad very much. I don't think he has any regrets. I know he didn't have any regrets. He lived a full life, and I know he'll always be there watching over me and all of you, and I love him and I miss him very much. Thank you.
I don't have anything written down like hotshot over here. I'm sure most of you know I'm Levi. If you didn't know, I'm Levi. My dad was awesome, you know. I don't think there was one thing my dad couldn't do. And if he couldn't do it, he would always tell me and my brother, Indian trick. He would show us his Indian tricks, but really they were just a ghetto way of doing it. I was up late talking to one of my uncles, and he told me that just like with all this happening and some time alone, he had a chance to really think like, what can I do to make an influence on this world like my dad did? And that just shows who my dad is and the impact he had on everybody. I don't think anyone I've met who knows my dad has said a bad word about him, you know. I remember I was in elementary school, and some of you guys already heard this, but Smokey the Bear would come into class, and I would be bragging to everybody, hey, my dad knows Smokey the Bear, my dad works with Smokey the Bear. You know, I thought it was awesome. And I would ask Smokey the Bear, I'd be like, hey, do you know Shannon Evans? And he'd just give me a thumbs up, nod his head, and I'd be like, that's my dad. That's my dad. And I would do that with people who went to 7th Street, or people I met who worked for the Forest Service. First thing I'd ask them, do you know Shannon Evans? And they'd either say, yeah, I know Shannon, you know, with a big smile on their face, or they'd be kind of confused, and I'd be like, you know, big old Indian guy. They'd be like, oh yeah, Shannon. I was always proud to say that he was my dad. I always will be. I know people who won't be blessed or honored to meet him like I was for 18 years, and everybody else here, they won't have that privilege. They will in a way, because I'll always carry a piece of my dad with me throughout my journey in life. And I don't have a whole lot like Hayden, but yeah, thank you guys. Thank you for being here as well.
You know, one thing your dad couldn't do, he could not sing. But all the great singers like Shannon and me, we don't have a little thing like being tone deaf. Let's just sing it out. So, sing it out, Shannon. At this point, we have some folks that also like to share some stories and some thoughts about Shannon. I've got a very short list, so I think that just so that we can get through it, we'll just have all these folks come up, and then there'll be an opportunity for anybody who just sort of in the moment has decided now that they want to speak. We'll make some space there as well. So Sean Larson, Galen Billy, Jennifer Letts, Maxine Klein, and Holly are on my list. You guys want to start moving this way. Sean's going to be first.
All right. Boy, there's more people here than there are for a morning briefing. That's good. We're going to break a little uniform protocol here. Start off with, I know Shannon will like this, Seahawk hat, so we'll start off with that. Wow, I've known Shannon for a long time. 28 years. I remember back in 1988, back when he was sporting a mullet and I was sporting hair. Yeah, 1988 was his first year. I was honored to be his, I was the assistant foreman that year, and then I was the engine foreman for 3 years. I was honored to have known him. 88 was a busy year. You know, the first fire assignment we had, engine got dispatched. I think it was to mop up a prescribed burn on the Wenatchee. And we had to leave somebody behind, and that was Shannon. I don't remember why, if he got the short straw or because he was a rookie. But much to our chagrin, when we got back, he went to Yellowstone. Yeah, so we missed out on that. But fortunately, I went back to Yellowstone 2 more times that summer with Shannon. Hell Roaring Fire, we spent 30 days there. Spiked out for 28 days. You know, that was an intense fire, a lot of digging line, burning out, going down into meadows, you know, for safety zones. Although we did have a little fun, and it kind of horrifies me now to think about what we did for fun, because I have a lot more like snag awareness now, but back then we were pushing over snags, you know, the old lodgepole snags that were about 40 feet high. And Shannon was great because he had a lot of leverage, a lot more than I did. And also we practiced splitting aspirin. We could see you could split an aspirin on a stump with a Pulaski. I remember doing that. One of the things about Shannon is he was always sleeping when we drove someplace. He was always in the back seat, sleeping. I don't know if he still was doing that, but I just remember that. Well, we got grounded after that year because we had disassembled the Suntop Lookout. It's a historic lookout. We took it apart and we stored it down in the warehouse. And you even see there's a plaque over there, a certificate of merit for him. Well, neither Shannon and I really knew crap about carpentry, but somehow we were able to rebuild that lookout. When we were putting the tongue and groove flooring in on that lookout, we replaced some of the wood, but most of it we just reused the original wood. The foundation was falling apart, so we had to put a new foundation, and we contracted that out. But anyways, the tongue and groove flooring, as we were putting in, we got to the end, because of all the people walking in with corks, there was kind of a triangle gap at the end. So we went back down to the district office, cut a triangle piece of wood, put that into the lookout, and then we put the cot over that. So I bet if you go up there today, you'll still see that triangle piece of wood up there. Boy, then our paths, they diverged for about 10, 12 years. And then we both ended up back in Central Oregon. I working as a fuel specialist, Shannon on a hotshot crew. About once a month we'd call each other and check in, talk a little bit about work. A lot of it wasn't. We would commiserate often about the Huskies losing to the Ducks and about all the bullets we were taking from our friends here, our avid Duck fans. Or he'd just say, hey, that truck you got in your driveway, because he drove by my house almost every day. He goes, why don't you sell that truck to me? Because you don't ever drive it. Well, I guess I did sell it, but unfortunately I didn't sell it to Shannon. One of the things that sticks with me and will always remind me of Shannon is when he was on the crew back, and I don't know if he ever said this to you guys, but he would always say, you got your library card? And I'm going, what? And he'd go, check it out. And I don't know if he ever said that, but he did back then. And I said it the other night, and Julie, my wife, looks over at me and she goes, oh, that's Shannon. So I'm always going to remember the guy. Don't worry, I'm about to close up. I timed this. Being a plants chief, So Jackie, Hayden, Levi, your husband and father, he was kind and gentle man. He was always a voice of reason, and he'd keep me in check. I'm honored to have known him, and I miss him dearly. Thanks.
I wrote a poem a few years back because getting older, I figure, I need to have something to put in my paper they hand out at the funeral, and but I'm planning ahead anyways. Anyways, I wrote this poem for that, and before I read it, I just want to say, see, 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 yeah. I know how you feel. I felt that way plenty of times. Don't ever feel alone. You have family and friends who love you and will hold you, give you support when you need it. I know how you feel. I felt that way plenty of times. Don't let your tears flow, because you know you need to be strong for those who don't know how to. Let them come to you for love and guidance. I know how you feel. I felt that way plenty of times. Don't worry about what may happen. Don't look back, just move forward. Continue on with what you do. Always keep the good memories alive. I know how you feel. I felt that way plenty of times. Remember that I love you with my whole heart, and that love will last through eternity. Thank you. And I appreciate each and every one of you people that are here and what you've done for our family in Shannon. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Letts. My husband's Craig Letts. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here today. He has a family emergency in the Midwest. Was really disappointed. We had a plane ticket. He was supposed to come in 2 hours ago, and we had to cancel that because he really wanted to be here for the family and all the friends. So you get me. But I just had a few words that we wanted to share. And I talked to Craig last week, and I said, what was it like working with Shannon? I mean, what do you remember the most? And he kind of sat back for a second, and he said, he was intelligent. He had incredible operational knowledge. He could get along with anybody. And he was just the most positive person all the time. And I thought those were amazing, amazing aspects to take away from their time together. And also the fact that anybody who could work for the Forest Service for that long and come to work with a positive attitude every day just shows me that this man was cut from a special cloth. And we're all going to miss him terribly. Thank you.
So good afternoon. I'm Holly Jukes. Shannon was my fire management officer in Crescent.
and I was his ranger. And this is a very mini Russell Wilson. I think he works for some team we just heard about, the sea chickens, the sea birds. He's coming back later. So my first strongest memory of Shannon was when he interviewed for the position in Crescent. He was a pretty humble guy, and it came through in his interview. His humbleness was right there all the time. The other thing I remember clearly, when he was answering some question that I don't remember what it was, he spoke of Jackie. He spoke of how much her support and her belief in him made him want to apply for the job and take that kind of a role. I also know that a lot of us in Crescent knew a whole lot about Hayden and Levi because their dad told us stories all the time. Lots of good ones, but occasionally something about a driving test not going so well, and maybe after those nights where he was biting his tongue. For me, Shannon was my calm. He always knew when I was having a rough day, mostly because we shared a wall that was paper thin in the old office, so we could hear what was going on in each other's rooms. His was known as the butt-chewing room. But he'd know when I hung up over a phone call and I had a big sigh, or a bunch of people piled out of my office and they were cranky. He'd come to the doorway and he'd stand there, and he took up the whole doorway, of course, and say, "Jukes." And he'd walk in and he'd sit down in one of the uncomfortable chairs and try to lean back as much as he could and start talking about something. Had nothing to do with what was on my mind, just to take my mind off what was going on. And just by calling me by my last name, he took me back to those days on fire when life was a little bit simpler. Of course, our chats also sometimes led us to behaving like 10-year-olds. We had just gotten these demo chairs for our new furniture for the new office, and we decided we had to test out the wheels. Shan decided we should race each other down this hallway with this steep slope, which I thought was a great idea. I'm competitive, let's go. Well, as the hallway started to narrow, I realized I might be in a little bit of trouble. I'll stop there. The third thing I most admired about Shannon, and it's been brought up a couple of times today already, is how he had this unique ability to have a conversation with anybody, anywhere, and he gave you his full, undivided attention. It was unrushed. He was never in a rush to stop the conversation and move on to the next important thing. He always made you feel like you and your life were very important to him, because they were. He was also this really clever, practical joker, and was never the first person that anybody suspected. One of our coworkers would often bemoan his inabilities to find the right relationship. We offered him all kinds of advice, good and bad. Shannon decided maybe he just needed to smell better. So he started hiding these perfume and cologne samples you get in your Sunday paper, the ones that are really sticky and they smell even before you open them, and after you open them, you wish you hadn't. He started hiding them in his office. But did Shannon get blamed? No. Holly did. So I start finding Chanel No. 5, New Age Old Spice, in my work bag, in my coat, in my office. So I smelled really good, like a lot of things for a long time. Thanks, Shannon. And I'd go in my office, I'd smell it, and I'd start making some commentary. He'd just sit in there laughing. So back to tiny Mr. Wilson here. You knew when the Seahawks were playing because Shannon was in full regalia when he showed up at the office. However, I'm a New England fan. Yeah, I know. The only time Shannon never responded to my text message, he was an awesome FMO, he always called me and responded even when he didn't want to, is I kind of gloated on February 1st, 2015, when Tom Brady kind of deflated this guy here. So at my going away party, Shannon's gifts to me were some Red Sox and Patriots little statues. He couldn't quite give me Tom Brady, though. That was a little much for him. So I got Drew Bledsoe instead. So my friend Shannon, my going away gift to you is Mr. Wilson will join those so I can remember you as my friend and my FMO always. Thanks.
As Rod said, my name's Wayne Rao, retired from ODF. I've been on the fire team since '96. I think I first ran into Shannon playing softball up at Duffer. I didn't get to work with Shannon, and I got to be honest with you, I feel sorry for a lot of people today. And none of them are here. They're all out there. There's a lot of people out there that never had the opportunity to cross paths with Shannon, and I did, as short as it was. Played ball with him, played golf with him. It was interesting playing golf with Shannon. By the time we made the turn and the rest of us had already put our salvation in jeopardy at least half a dozen times by some of the language we were using because of lost balls and cheatgrass on our socks. It didn't matter how many balls Shannon lost or how much cheatgrass he had in his socks. He always had a smile on his face. He really enjoyed the game. He always had a lot of fun. As I say, I spent a lot more time with Shannon on fires. I didn't get to spend too much time with him when he was a division Suki. He was just a name on an incident action plan for me there, but when he finally got to be operations chief and I was a resource unit leader, we sort of was able to spend more time together, especially in pre-planning meetings and that kind of thing. And I remember the first time I headed into that pre-planning meeting with Shannon that first day, and this mountain of a man standing there, he was intimidating. My breaths were getting short. But I finally said, you know, I can get through this. Heck, I've dealt with Bruce Cheney. But I really enjoyed working with Shannon. He was a great person, I'll tell you, like they said, you know, what people say and what people do. Shannon's always going to be a chapter in my book. I know that. And I certainly thank the Creator for letting my paths cross with Him. Thank you.
My name is Chris Miller. I'm one of Shannon's neighbors and friends, and obviously he must have been a great guy to work with. He's got lots of representation here. Just figured he needed a little from a friends and neighbor side. But he was a guy who liked to have a lot of fun. He was always there. If you needed anything, any help with anything, he was always willing to come over, help you out. You know, one of my favorite memories of Shannon was we had a lot of good times together, and we had a poker trip that we did to Pendleton. He liked to play poker a lot, and 5 of us went in our buddy Dan's motorhome, and we had a great time. We had a lot of fun there playing the tournament, and you know, after the tournament at night, we were all pretty tired, and as soon as the lights went out, I don't know how he did it, but that guy was snoring in 30 seconds, and the rest of the 4 of us were quiet for a few minutes, and then we just started laughing uncontrollably. We called it the pig snort. He was just, all I can remember thinking is poor Jackie. But I just wanted to share that story. Shannon was a really amazing guy. I'm going to miss him a lot. He was a good guy. So, here's Shannon.
You know, it's been an honor to have known Shannon for the past 19 years and be with his family over the past few days. We would like to thank his traditional family for being so amazingly kind, loving, and welcoming as we walk this path together, and we each navigate the loss of our firefighting brother, husband, son, son-in-law, nephew, and dad. We are honored to be with you, Jackie, Hayden, and Levi, here today to celebrate Shannon and start to heal.
Shannon unselfishly shared so much with so many over the years. Shannon shared freely his preciously big, compassionate heart. His dedication was reflected in those he led. His sense of humor made us all laugh. And of course, his great, big, wonderful smile that made each of us smile. He was certainly dedicated to family, whether his family at home or his family at work. If you knew Shannon, he considered you family. He brought calm to chaos. He shared his life's lessons. He taught, he mentored, and led these families well. He melded his family, his culture, and his work life in a way that brought satisfaction and stability to us all. We are proud to call him a friend and a member of our family. It is a privilege to share with all here today the story of the Pulaski in honor of our brother Shannon. The Pulaski stands for longevity. A tool that resembled the modern Pulaski was first displayed at the Centennial Exposition. In the 1910 Idaho fires, a district ranger named Ed Pulaski led his crew to safety in a mine shaft as a fire swept over them. In later years, he tinkered with the design of firefighting tools. In fact, the current tool may have been his design. In any case, the tool has been named in his honor, the Pulaski. To fire protection personnel, the Pulaski represents longevity of service. The Pulaski represents versatility. The Pulaski has both an axe head and a hoe. It is a versatile tool, ready to chop or dig, ready to do any job that confronts it. The design represents versatility to firefighters. The Pulaski represents hard work. The Pulaski is a hand tool. It isn't an automated device, an airplane, a computer, nor is it an easy tool to use. It requires hard work to be effective. The Pulaski represents hard work to all firefighters. The Pulaski represents leadership. The Pulaski is the first tool in the line of the most basic firefighting resource, a 20-person crew. As such, crew members refer to their place on a crew as a distinction of honor and importance. For example, 3rd Pulaski, or the most coveted, Lead Pulaski. The Pulaski represents leadership to firefighters all over the world. With that, I'll ask Alex and Mo to go down before Levi and Hayden. We are very honored to present these Pulaskis to Shannon's sons, Hayden and Levi. For his many years of dedication to fire management, he has certainly redeemed the Pulaski's representation of longevity in fire management. For his versatility in effectively dealing with the many challenges confronting him over the years. For his plain, old-fashioned hard work in fire management, which is clearly unsurpassed by any of us who know him. For his leadership, for all the years of serving the fire program, not the least of which was his undying commitment to doing things right and doing the right thing. On behalf of the men and women in fire and aviation management, we thank you, Shannon. We love you, Shannon, and we will miss you, Shannon. Thank you. So what we have here is a plaque for Jackie that Mo will present to you. It's presented to Shannon Evans for leadership and dedication, for fire, fuels, and aviation management in Central Oregon and the Pacific Northwest from 1988 to 2016. This is for you, Jackie. Thank you.
Thank you, DJ. Thank you all for being here this afternoon. And as the gentleman just said, the people that missed Shannon's life are out there. The ones that are lucky to know him are in here. As we walked in a while ago, I looked at the mountains, the beautiful scenery. I could understand why Shannon wanted to come down here to this new opportunity he had in his life. Then when I looked in here and seen all the people, I seen all the beauty too that he was that he also seen. You guys are awesome. And Jackie asked me to come up here and express our family, the family's appreciation to everyone that supported us from day one, from the night that Shannon went into the hospital till he entered rest. All of the food that was brought, campers that were offered, rides, telephones, help, rides to the airport, anything we wanted was offered by you all. So I just want to thank everyone, and you will never be forgotten. And Shannon will never be forgotten. So you all need to be commended, and thank you again very much.